Welcome friends. In this session, we discuss about Riemann integrals. Recall that in calculus, we defined the integral using the idea of antiderivative, a sort of inverse process of differentiation. But historically, the idea of integration precedes that of the idea of differentiation. The Greek mathematicians knew this. Of course, the Greeks did not use the language of calculus. Let us recall how we found out the area of well-known figures. First, we defined the area of a square and then the rectangle. Then we found that the area of a parallelogram and then the area of a triangle. ABCD is a parallelogram. If we cut the triangle ADE and part it at BCF, we get the rectangle DEFC, which makes the area of these two figures equal. If triangles ACB and CBD are congruent, then ABCD is a parallelogram. We know how to handle the area of the parallelogram, and hence the area of the triangle ABC is half of that of the parallelogram. A polygon can be divided into a number of triangles. So, if we have a figure which can be divided into a number of figures for which we can find the area, then we can find the area of the original figure. Can we extend this method to find the area of a circle? Obviously, we encounter a problem. When we face difficulty in finding the exact area, then what is the next best thing to do? Approximate, of course. Another question also pops up. What is an area? Let us see what the Greek mathematicians did. Consider a circular disk. We can inscribe a polygon of n sides inside the disk or subscribe a polygon of n sides to the disk. In case of the polygon being inscribed, the area will be slightly small, and in the second case slightly large. It looks like we can decrease the error by increasing the number of sides of the polygon. Hence, as n gets larger and larger, we expect the area of the polygons to approach the area of the circle. In fact, we can define the area of the disk this way, because earlier we did not actually ask the question, what is the area? The Greek mathematicians used this method to approximate, but did not hit upon the idea of limit. Archimedes' method of finding the area of a parabolic segment is very famous. The following figure illustrates roughly how he divided the parabolic segment using triangles. What Riemann did was essentially the same. He developed an analytical method using the full potential of the real number system. In this method, we not only find the area, but actually define the area also. Let us consider the area bounded by y is equal to f of x is equal to a, and x is equal to b, and the x-axis. We divide the interval closed interval AB into n parts using the points x0 is equal to a, x1, x2, etc. xn is equal to b, and construct rectangles first contained in the required area and then containing the required area. The area of the first smaller rectangle is minimum of fx in the interval ax1 into the length of the interval x0 x1. The sum of the areas of all such inner rectangles is sigma k from 1 to n minimum of f of x in closed interval xk minus 1 xk into the length of the interval xk minus 1 xk. Similarly, the sum of the areas of the outer rectangles is sigma k from 1 to n maximum of f of x in the closed interval xk minus 1 xk into the length of the interval xk minus 1 xk. I assumed that the minimum and maximum of fx in the intervals xk minus 1 xk exist for every k. I am not assuming that the intervals xk minus 1 xk are all of the same length. For a nice function like the one I have in the picture, we expect the sum of the areas of the rectangles approximate the actual area, and as we increase the number of division of the interval, they get closer and closer to the actual area. Also, we expect the sum of the areas of the outer rectangle decrease to the actual area and the sum of the areas of the inner rectangles increase to the actual area. Now, let us formally go about establishing these things in a systematic way with creating technical terms with definitions. Let I be any closed and bounded interval of real numbers and f be a bounded real valued function on I. We define capital M Fi and small m Fi as capital M Fi is equal to least upper bound of f of x in the interval I and small m Fi is equal to greatest lower bound of f of x in the interval I. As the function f is assumed to be bounded on I, the least upper bound and the greatest lower bound exist. By a subdivision or partition of the closed and bounded interval AB, we mean a finite subset x0, x1, x2, etc. xn of AB such that A is equal to x0 less than x1 less than x2 etc. less than xn is equal to B. For example, if I is equal to closed interval 0 to, then P is equal to set 0, 0.5, 0.75, 1, 1.2, 1.4, 1.8, 2 is a partition of the interval closed interval 0 to. If sigma and tau are two partitions of the same interval, then we say tau is a refinement of sigma if sigma is contained in tau. This means that the partition tau is obtained from sigma by adding more points of division. If sigma is equal to set x0, x1, x2, etc. xn is a subdivision of closed interval AB, then the closed intervals I1 is equal to closed interval x0, x1, I2 is equal to closed interval x1, x2, etc. In is equal to closed interval xn minus 1 xn are called the component intervals of sigma. Definition: let f be a bounded function on the closed and bounded interval AB and let sigma be any subdivision of AB. We define UF sigma called the upper sum for f corresponding to sigma as UF sigma is equal to sigma k from 1 to n mfik into mod ik, where I1, I2, I3, etc. In are the component intervals of sigma. Similarly, the lower sum of f with respect to sigma is defined as LF sigma is equal to sigma k from 1 to n mfik into mod ik, where mod ik denotes the length of the interval ik is equal to closed interval xk minus 1 xk, that is xk minus xk minus 1. Now, referring back to our figure, when we approximated the area under the function f, the x-axis and the lines x equal to a and x equal to b, one can see that UF sigma corresponds to the sum of the area of the outer rectangles and LF sigma corresponds to the sum of the area of the inner rectangles. With the new terminology and notation, the whole thing looks slick and nice. Obviously, UF sigma greater than or equal to LF sigma, because MFIK greater than or equal to small mfik for every k. It is important to see that UF sigma and LF sigma in our earlier figure happens to be the sum of the areas of the outer rectangles and the sum of the areas of the inner rectangles respectively, because I took my function f to be non-negative and continuous. Now, we will show that the upper sum of a bounded function over a partition will always be greater than the lower sum for any partition. Theorem: let f be a bounded function on closed interval AB, then every upper sum for f is greater than or equal to every lower sum of f. That is, if sigma and tau are any two subdivisions of closed interval AB, then UF sigma greater than or equal to LF tau. First we will show that if sigma star is any refinement of sigma, then UF sigma greater than or equal to UF sigma star. Remember that we get a refinement sigma star of sigma by adding more points of subdivision to sigma. It is enough to prove in the case where sigma star is obtained from sigma by adding just one more point of division. For if sigma star contains a finite number of points more than that of sigma, the rest will follow by induction. Now, suppose that the component intervals of sigma are I1, I2, etc., ik minus 1, ik plus 1, etc., in, and sigma star has I1, I2, etc., ik star, star, ik plus 1, etc., in as component intervals, where ik is equal to ik star union ik star star. That is, I am introducing a point in the kth interval and divide it into two intervals ik star and ik star star. Obviously, the length of ik is equal to the length of ik star plus the length of ik star star. Since ik star contained in ik, we have mf ik star star less than or equal to mf ik. Similarly, mf ik star less than or equal to mf ik. Thus, UF sigma star is equal to sigma j from 1 to n, j not equal to k, mf ij into length of ij plus mf ik star into length of ik star plus mf ik star star into length of ik star, less than or equal to sigma j from 1 to n, j not equal to k, mf ij into length of ij plus mf ik into length of ik star plus mf ik into length of ik star star, which is equal to sigma j from 1 to n, j not equal to k, mf ij into length of ij plus mf ik into length of ik star plus length of ik star star, which is equal to sigma j from 1 to n, j not equal to k, mf ij into length of ij plus mf ik into length of ik is equal to sigma j from 1 to n, mf ij into length of ij, which is equal to UF sigma. So, we have proved that UF sigma star less than or equal to UF sigma. Now, what will happen if we replace UF sigma star and UF sigma by LF sigma star and LF sigma? As I star contained in I and I star star contained in I, we have MF I star greater than or equal to MF I and MF I star star greater than or equal to MF I. The inequality is reversal comparing to the case where we had maximum. Hence, as before, we can prove that if tau star is any refinement of tau, then LF tau less than or equal to LF tau star. Note that when sigma and tau are partitions of an interval, then sigma union tau is also a partition of the interval, and sigma union tau is a refinement of both sigma and tau. Therefore, if we use equations 1 and 2, we can write that UF sigma greater than or equal to UF sigma union tau greater than or equal to LF sigma union tau greater than or equal to LF tau, which proves UF sigma greater than or equal to LF tau. Now, let us look more closely what we have. If f is a bounded function on a closed and bounded interval AB, then for any partition sigma, the upper sum UF sigma and the lower sum LF sigma exist. The upper sum over any partition is always greater than or equal to the lower sum with any other partition. So, if we consider all possible partition of the interval closed interval AB and consider the lower sums, it will have an upper bound because any upper sum will suffice. Similarly, if consider all the possible upper sums, this set will be bounded below, for any lower sum will do. Here the completeness property of the real number system comes in very handy, and we can write LF tau less than or equal to greatest lower bound over sigma UF sigma for every subdivision tau. This again leads to least upper bound over tau LF tau less than or equal to greatest lower bound over sigma UF sigma. The above inequality is very crucial. Definition: let f be a bounded function on the closed and bounded interval AB. We define integral a to b f of x dx called the upper integral of f over closed interval AB as integral a to b f of x dx is equal to greatest lower bound of UF sigma, where the greatest lower bound is taken over all subdivisions sigma of closed interval AB. Similarly, we define integral a to b f of x dx called the lower integral of f over closed interval AB as integral a to b f of x dx is equal to least upper bound of LF sigma. We denote the upper and lower integrals simply by upper integral a to b f and lower integral a to b f. From the inequality we have above, it is obvious that lower integral a to b f less than or equal to upper integral a to b f. We are now ready to define the Riemann integral. If f is a bounded function on a closed and bounded interval AB, we say that f is Riemann integrable on closed interval AB if lower integral a to b f is equal to upper integral a to b f. In this case, we define integral a to b f of x dx or integral a to b f as integral a to b f is equal to lower integral a to b f, which is equal to upper integral a to b f. We denote by RAB the class of all functions f which are Riemann integrable on closed interval AB. We have defined the Riemann integrable functions on a closed and bounded interval. Now, we have to answer the following questions. What type of functions are Riemann integrable? Are the usual properties of the integral we studied in calculus true in this case also? Can we develop a necessary and sufficient condition for Riemann integrability? In calculus, we used the idea of antiderivative to find the integral. In the context of Riemann integral, do we have such a relation? We have made two basic assumptions while defining the Riemann integral. 1. F is bounded. 2. The interval closed interval AB on which f is defined is bounded. What happens when we relax these conditions? We will answer all these questions in the following lectures, through not in the same order. So, let us pause here. We will discuss more details of Riemann integrability in another session. Please try to answer the following questions. Find two different partitions of closed interval 0, 1 and find a common refinement of them. Second, suppose f of x is equal to x square on closed interval 0, 2. Find 1. The fifth Riemann sum for an equally spaced partition, taking always the left endpoint of each subinterval. Second, the fifth Riemann sum for an equally spaced partition, taking always the right endpoint of each subinterval. Third, the nth Riemann sum for an equally spaced partition, taking always the right endpoint of each subinterval. Let f of x is equal to x raised to 4 minus 4x cube plus 10 for all x in closed interval 1, 4. Calculate UFP and LFP for the partition P is equal to set 1, 2, 3, 4 of closed interval 1, 4. Here are some books for your reference. Mathematical Analysis, T.M. Apostol, Narosa Publishing House, New Delhi. Real Analysis, R.R. Goldberg, Oxford and IBH Publishing Company, New Delhi. Undergraduate Analysis, S. Lang, Springer Verlag, New York. A First Course in Mathematical Analysis, D. Somasundaram and B. Chowdhury, Narosa Publishing House, New Delhi. A Course of Mathematical Analysis, Shanti Narayan, S. Chand and Company, New Delhi. An Introduction to Real Analysis, P. K. Jain and S. K. Kaushik, S. Chand and Company, New Delhi. Hope you enjoyed this session. We will come back with another topic. Until then, goodbye, take care.